This is my video update from Belgrade, Serbia on this Saturday afternoon, October the 7th. Happy birthday, Mr. Putin. I believe today is Russian President Putin's birthday. And what a day. What a day it is shaping up to be. I woke up in the morning, made my way to the airport in Budapest, Hungary, and the news broke that there seems to be a conflict, a war that has started in Israel. And this is a war between Hamas and Israel. And as I was boarding my flight here to Belgrade, I've been trying to get a feel for what's happening, what is taking place at this moment in what is huge news, with a conflict that is breaking in Israel. And I landed in Serbia, and I am playing catch up with this huge story. But Zlati 71, he has got a good summary of what has taken place up until this moment in this conflict between Hamas, Palestinian groups, Hamas, and Israeli forces. So let me just read you a tweet from Zlati 71. I think he is pulling this from the news outlet RIA, and this is what he has posted. The biggest escalation in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in years occurred on Saturday morning, the day after the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. What is known so far? Palestinian groups said they fired 5,000 rockets. Israeli security forces said 2,000. The Israeli Defense Forces announced Operation Iron Swords against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The Prime Minister declared a state of war. That is Prime Minister Netanyahu. He has said that Israel is in a state of war. Is that the same as declaring that you are at war? Let me know in the comments down below. A state of emergency has been declared in Israel. Reservists are being mobilized. According to the latest data, the death toll in Israel has increased to 22, with 545 injured. There were media reports about the capture of Israeli soldiers and settlers. In southern Israel, the power grid is damaged and power outages are reported. Israeli police reported militant infiltration in 14 districts. Security forces have not yet established control in any of them. And the Israeli forces reported that it carried out strikes on 17 military targets and 4 Hamas command centers in the Gaza Strip. From RT, Israel is at war. Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has said Israel is at war in his first comments after Palestinian armed groups Hamas launched a major surprise attack on Israel earlier on Saturday. Citizens of Israel, we are at war and we will win, Netanyahu said in a video address. Quote, the enemy will pay a price like they have never known before, he vowed, referring to Hamas. And I think I have a statement from the Israel Defense Forces that they posted on Twitter X. The IDF declares a state of war alert. In the last hour, a massive firing of rockets into Israeli territory from Gaza began, and terrorists penetrated into Israeli territory in a number of different locations. Residents of the south and center are required to be near protected areas and in the Gaza Strip within a protected area. At this time, the Chief of Staff conducts a situation assessment and approves plans for the continuation of IDF activities. Hamas is the sovereign in the Gaza Strip, which is behind this attack, and will bear the results and responsibility for the events. Now, I have seen reports that the Palestinian forces, Hamas, they have gained quite a lot of territory. They have broken through a lot of the Israeli defenses. I've seen reports which claim that they've captured military bases as well. I can't confirm this. There are videos of, this is unconfirmed as well. There are videos floating around Twitter and Telegram of Palestinian fighters using paragliders to infiltrate southern Israel. Incredible videos. You'll see them up on the screen right now. And a lot of tanks destroyed, Israeli tanks destroyed. Unconfirmed reports. I can't confirm this, but I mean, I've seen videos and photos of Israeli soldiers who have been captured. And the other news was that they saturated the Iron Dome, Israel's Iron Dome, and they've rendered Iron Dome pretty much useless, ineffective. That's what I've got. That is the information that I've got. And a couple of more thoughts on this. There were reports that the Biden White House was working on a peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel. I wonder what is going to happen with that. And remember, like 9 months ago, 10 months ago, where there were reports that the United States, they tapped into all the ammunition that was being stored in Israel in case of something happening. The U.S. had a whole bunch of ammunition, like a lot of ammo in Israel. And there are reports like 10 months ago that the U.S. had tapped into those weapons and into that ammunition in order to give it to the Elensky regime. I wonder if those reports were true, and I wonder if that ammunition is gone. I don't know. U.S. ammo, by the way, but still, I don't know what's going on there. And I'm trying to think if I have any more thoughts. The Israeli intel, the Israeli military, they didn't see this coming. They didn't have intel that this was going to take place. I don't know. So this is a huge story, and I'm positive that on Monday, me and Alexander will do a video on this on the Duran, and I'm positive that Alexander will give a very good analysis. I hope he gives a good analysis on this story in his video this evening. That's what I've got for you on my end. I will follow this huge development as well, as the Ukraine conflict is at the beginning of its conclusion. And I want to be very clear when I mean it's at the beginning of its conclusion. This conclusion can take 3 months, it can take 6 months, a couple of years. I don't know, but obviously the conflict in Ukraine is at the beginning of the end. It looks like we may have another really big conflict starting up. So that's what I've got for you there. And let's now pivot to Ukraine, and let's talk about the meeting that took place in Spain, in Granada, where the EU, as well as other countries, they met up in Spain in order to discuss two issues. To discuss the migrant issue into the European Union, and to discuss aid to the Elensky regime. And the issue of aid to the Elensky regime, well, it did not go well. This meeting did not turn out well at all for the Elensky regime. A beautiful tree at this beautiful park in the center of Belgrade, Serbia. I believe this park is called the Students' Park. I could be wrong about that, but if my memory serves me correct, this is the Students' Park. And I think I don't know if that's a university or there's a university somewhere down that way. I don't know. Something tells me that's the name of this park. Anyway, let's see here. So we have the meeting of EU member states as well as the UK. I don't know what the UK is doing there since it's not part of the European Union, but Rishi Sunak was there. Maybe he was just there to hug it out with Elensky, to get a smell of Elensky's odor because it's so pleasant and to touch some of that smooth Elensky skin that Rishi Sunak, who else? Trudeau, Macron, and once upon a time, Duda. They loved to get a feel of Elensky as they hugged him. Anyway, anyway, I'm just joking around. There is a video that's on the interwebs that when Rishi Sunak opened the door to meet with Elensky was in like a conference room, and when Rishi Sunak opened the door to meet with Elensky, like Sunak was so excited to hug Elensky that he almost like dropped his papers. There is a video floating around showing that. I'll try to find that and put it on the screen right now. But that's how excited Rishi Sunak was to hug Elensky. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's the cologne he uses. I don't know. Maybe that cologne has special powers. Anyway, yeah. So what was I going to say about this meeting in Spain? Yeah, it did not go well. It did not go well. Josep Borrell, he pretty much summed it up. Jungle Joseph, he said that if the United States does not give money and weapons to Ukraine, he said the EU really can't do much. He said we can't match what the U.S. can give to Ukraine, and that was pretty much a summary of the entire meeting. Of course, the EU, they put on a brave face and they said we're going to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. This is going to be a long war, and we've got your back, Elensky. And okay, they threw out all these talking points and cliches that we're all used to by now, but Borrell pretty much, he said it out loud. He said the quiet part out loud. If the United States doesn't get money and weapons to Elensky, it's game over. The EU cannot support Ukraine in this conflict. And to make matters worse, much, much worse, the former chief of the European Union, the former European Commission president, Mr. JeanClaude Junker, he came out with a statement during an interview with the German outlet Augsburger Allgemein, which was published on Thursday, and he said that the EU kleptocrats, he didn't use the word kleptocrats, I'm using the word kleptocrats. He said the EU kleptocrats, the globalists, they need to stop making these promises to Ukraine and to Elensky that Ukraine is going to enter the European Union. I mean, Juncker, he blew apart the EU aspirations of the Elensky regime and Ukraine. He said, and I quote, "Anyone who has had anything to do with Ukraine knows that this is a country that is corrupt at all levels of society. Despite its efforts, it is not ready for accession. It needs massive internal reform processes. Making false promises to Ukrainians regarding EU accession would be neither good for the EU nor for Ukraine. You shouldn't make false promises to the people in Ukraine who are up to their necks in suffering," Juncker said. "I am very angry about some voices in Europe who are telling Ukrainians that they can become members immediately." Boy, boy, did Juncker demolish the EU aspirations of Ukraine. Of course, he says Ukraine entering the EU immediately to stop making these false promises. But you know, in the EU timeline of things, 2030 accession of Ukraine into the European Union, that's pretty much immediately. That is pretty much immediate when you look at the process, the time that it takes to enter the European Union. I mean, Turkey's been at it for what, 30 years now, and they're never getting in. But 5-6 years, that's pretty fast for a country to enter the European Union. And so I think Juncker is saying, who you guys kidding? Ukraine is about as corrupt as they come. It's not going to enter the European Union. It shouldn't enter the European Union, and stop making these false promises to the people of Ukraine and to the Elensky regime that they're going to enter the European Union. That was a statement from the ex-European Commission president. And Elensky was very, very unhappy about this statement. He fired back at Juncker, speaking after the summit of the bloc's leaders in the Spanish city of Granada. Elensky accused former president of the European Commission, JeanClaude Junker, of spreading Russia propaganda about Ukraine. Earlier this week, Juncker said Ukraine was plagued by corruption at all levels of society and should not be accepted into the bloc anytime soon. Elensky insisted that not a single dollar, oh boy, I'm going to try to say this with a straight face, everybody. This is what Elensky said. So I'm going to try to say this without busting out laughing. Here we go. Elensky insisted that, and I quote, not a single dollar was stolen from our partners amid the conflict with Russia, but admitted that there were different people and cases, end quote. First of all, it is the well-known Russian narrative about corruption. They understand that they cannot split the overall unity of Europe and support for Ukraine. The US and its intelligence services learned about the roots of the idea, how to undermine society support in the world, Elensky said. Instead of spreading the purported Russian narrative about Ukraine's corruption, Juncker should have personally done more for Ukraine, Elensky suggested. That is of no interest for him. Now he decided to write some Russian narrative since everyone has forgotten who he is. I think it's stupid, Elensky said. I think it's stupid. That is what Elensky said. The dogs are having a great time here, by the way. It's a beautiful day here in Belgrade. And the dogs are having a great time at this park, which is very close to Republic Square. I'll walk over to Republic Square in a bit. Kind of tradition for me whenever I'm in Belgrade. I always do my first video at the main square. So we'll walk over there in a bit. But yeah, I think it's stupid. I think JeanClaude Juncker is a poopy pants. Yeah, it's Russian propaganda that Ukraine is corrupt. Yeah, those are Putin talking points. Ukraine's not corrupt. No, 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 no. Elensky has not stolen not one single dollar, not one. Every cent can be accounted for. Oh my God! Do you guys remember the movie Dumb and Dumber? When what was Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels? What were their names? Lloyd and something else. I forgot. Lloyd and Christmas, I believe. I forgot his first name. Lloyd Christmas and something. Anyway, not important. Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. They like find the suitcase like worth millions of dollars. Remember that? They find the suitcase. And it breaks open and they see all the money and they like look at each other and they go, okay. And they were like sleeping on the streets in Aspen, Colorado, right? It's really cold and sleeping in a park. And they're like, okay, we'll use this money, we'll get a hotel room, and we'll account for everything. We will make sure we account for every single dollar and cent spent. As the movie goes along, they're like in Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and they're staying at like the best like 5-star hotels in Aspen, Colorado, like eating at the best restaurants. And when they give the suitcase over to the owner, I forgot her name. Anyway, who was the actress? Who was the actress that was playing her? I forgot. Anyway, they give the suitcase over to her. And they open up the suitcase and it's like a bunch of like IOUs. They like wrote a bunch of IOUs and they're like, look, a Ferrari IOU. And they're like, we're good for it. They like spent like millions of dollars and they wrote IOUs. That's what Elensky's going to do to the Biden White House and to Ursula. He's going to say, look, open up this suitcase. Everything is accounted for. I've written out IOUs. Oh, boy. I don't have any further comments. Oh, man. All right. So another topic that was discussed at this summit, the other big topic was the migration issue. And the EU, there were reports that the EU came out with a migration, they're calling it like the Migration Security Pact, or the EU's Migration Pact. And there was a statement saying that all the member states, they agreed to this EU Migration Pact. And basically, what this pact, from what I understand, what this pact says is that the migrants that enter Italy and Greece, which is how they're usually entering the European Union, migrants and people seeking asylum, when they enter Italy and Greece, all the member states have to take a certain amount of migrants or asylum seekers, depending on a quota system. And if they refuse to take migrants or asylum seekers, depending on the quota, then the EU is going to fine them something like, it's like a crazy number. I want to say 20,000 euros per migrant that they refuse to take in, but I could be wrong about that number. It's either 2,000 or 20,000 per migrant. I wish I had the post bookmarked, but I don't. But I don't have it bookmarked. I apologize for that. Anyway, you'll let me know in the comments down below what the exact amount is for the fine. So basically, that is that's the Migration Pact, and boy, did this anger Poland and Hungary. It also angered some other countries, Czech Republic, I believe, Slovakia, but they weren't as vocal about this Migration Pact as Poland and Hungary were. Viktor Orban, he came out with an incredible statement. Let me pull up his statement. He said that Hungary will not compromise with Brussels on such an agreement. And I quote, "There is no chance to have any kind of compromise and agreement on migration," Orban told reporters. This is ahead of the meeting in Spain. He said, "Politically, it is impossible." He says, "Because legally, we are, how to say it, we are graped," and just remove the G. I'm saying that because of the YouTube algorithms. We are graped. So if you are graped legally, forced to accept something you don't like, how would you like to have a compromise? It's impossible. That is what Orban said to reporters, I believe, before the deal was announced. Now, I don't know, has Hungary agreed to this? I did read something that said the countries can agree to this migration pact, but they're not being forced to fill the quota. And I think the compromise was this, that they had to amend some paragraphs in the compromise in order to please Hungary and Poland. And that compromise was that EU member states are not being forced to accept migrants or asylum seekers based on this EU quota system. But if they decide to not take migrants or asylum seekers, then they have to pay a certain amount of money to Italy and Greece, or the countries where the migrants and the asylum seekers first enter. Hungary and Poland voted against the pact, I'm reading here, while Austria, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic abstained. So I think they did come up with some sort of compromise, and that was the compromise, that you're not being forced to take in the asylum seekers, and you can pay Greece and Italy the amount of asylum seekers that you don't want to take in according to the EU quota. You can pay Greece and Italy a lump sum. I think that Poland, and I don't know what Hungary said about this, but I think that Poland was still like, no, we're not playing ball with any of this. Let me see here. The EU's new pact on migration and asylum will seek to relieve pressure on so-called frontline countries like Italy and Greece by relocating arrivals to the EU states. Poland and Hungary clash with the EU over migration reform. Those opposed to hosting asylum seekers would be required to pay those that do. So that's the agreement. That's the compromise that they reach. But then you have, just a few hours ago, Poland's Prime Minister, Morawiecki, he explains why he refused to sign the common positive conclusion on the EU's migration pact at the European Council in Granada. quote, and this is a quote from Poland's prime minister, 70% of the robberies in Sweden are done by illegal migrants in Sweden. They need the military to fight gangs. That is what the Polish prime minister said. And here's another tweet from David Atherton, citing terrorism and violence in Sweden, Netherlands and France. Poland PM Mateusz Morawiecki is refusing to sign off the EU Migration Pact. It covers the quota relocation plan, where Poland would be obliged to take migrants. He says Poland does not want the violence. That is what he said, and that's what the Polish Prime Minister said. And Laura Bibo says Poland's Prime Minister refused to agree on the EU's Migration Pact. Could Poland leave the EU? A poll exit. The EU can't have special rules for migrants within their members, and there are no borders. Yeah, Poland's not going to leave the EU. I don't think they're even considering such a move. For Poland, it has been a net positive being in the EU, at least with regards to funds and subsidies and grants. But Hungary, Hungary is an interesting case because, once again, the European Union, they owe Hungary 22 billion or 23 billion in cohesion funds and grants and subsidies and stuff like that. And they've been withholding this money so that they can try to make life difficult for the Orban government and to try to get some sort of change in Hungary, to get Orban out of government and get someone into government who's more compliant with those EU values. And so, Hungary is an interesting case, especially if they're very unhappy with this new migrant pact that the EU is forcing on member states, or that the member states have agreed to. I imagine that this migration pact is making Greece and Italy happy, I would guess, but I haven't gotten to read. I haven't yet gotten to read. My English is terrible today. To read statements from Italy or Greece, from Mitsotakis or Georgia Meloni. So that is the migration pact. It's tough to give up your borders, your sovereignty to a bunch of unelected kleptocrats and globalists in Brussels, but that's what EU membership is all about. Remember that when the special military operation was launched, I say this often, but I think this is a very good thing for all of the EU presidents and prime ministers to remember. When the special military operation launched, Ursula von der Crazy, she declared on behalf of the entire European Union that the EU is closing all of the borders for EU member states with regards to Russian commercial flights into the European Union. Russian commercial flights were no longer allowed to land in the EU. The airspace of the European Union was closed off to Russia. And she declared that on behalf of all the EU member states, and all the EU member states, because they were so excited about the prospects of regime change in Russia, that and the balkanization of Russia. They were so excited about it that they signed up. They accepted it right away, and they gave the power at that moment. They gave so much power to Brussels to effectively control the airspace and the borders of the EU. So, I mean, that's what it means to be part of the EU. So this is going to be an interesting story to follow. I'm very interested to follow up on what Hungary has said, if they've made any statements since this morning, or statements from Italy and Greece as well. I'm curious to see what they say about this migration pact. So let's now turn our attention to the United States. We'll do one more story before we get to our clown world. Trump accused of leaking submarine secrets, according to ABC News. Jeez, is there anything that they're not going to accuse Trump of? I mean, they're accusing Trump of everything. Either you're a Putin propagandist, or you're Orange Man bad. I mean, my God. Okay, whatever. Now Trump is leaking submarine secrets. Whatever, whatever. All right, so let's talk about someone who absolutely despises Trump, who is still denying the results of the 2016 election. That is one Hillary Clinton. And let's go for a walk. My nose is itching, but it has nothing to do with the stuff that Elensky Elensky likes to do that makes his nose itch. I don't know, maybe it's something in this park. But let's talk about Hillary Clinton. The 2016 election denier, Hillary Clinton, for some reason, she is in the press. She is in the media a whole lot. Is she preparing to run again? God, I hope not. I really hope not. But she is, I can't speak today. She is making a lot of media appearances. She is making a lot of media appearances. I wanted to say something else and my mind just froze. Anyway, so she sat down for an interview with Christian Amanpour. I think everyone that's watching this video knows where I'm about to go with this. So yeah, she sat down with Christian Amanpour, and Hillary Clinton said that all of the MAGA supporters, all of the people that support Trump, the deplorables, all of the deplorables, they have to be reprogrammed. Is that what she said? Did she actually say that? Deprogrammed. They need a formal deprogramming. So many of these extremists, those MAGA extremists, they're extremists now. Many of those MAGA extremists take their marching orders from Donald Trump, who has no credibility left by any measure. Clinton said in an interview aired by CNN on Thursday, he's only in it for himself. And when do they break with him? At some point, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members, but something needs to happen. Wow. A formal deprogramming of like, I don't know, can I say half the United States? What's the number of people that support Trump? Either hardcore or just coming out now and saying, you know what, I've had enough of Biden, I'll vote for Trump. How many people are we talking about in the United States? Give me a number in the comments down below. 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, 100 million? I don't know. Hillary is saying that these people need a formal deprogramming. How is Hillary gonna do that deprogramming? She's gonna use the same software that she used to wipe out her 30,000 emails. BleachBit. What do they say? She BleachBit the emails. She used BleachBit. Oh man, Hillary, just go away, go away. Yeah, her interview with Christian Amanpour. I'm Christian Amanpour. I'm a international correspondent and a very distinguished journalist. Miss Clinton, my name is Christian Amanpour. I'm an international correspondent with CNN, a distinguished journalist. How are you going to handle? How are you going to handle the Trump MAGA supporters and the Trump MAGA extremists? That's my question. I'm Christian Amanpour, international correspondent and a very distinguished journalist. And Hillary's like, we're going to formally deprogram them. Miss Clinton, I would like to ask a follow-up question. I'm Christian Amanpour, international correspondent and a very distinguished journalist. How exactly are you going to deprogram people? We're going to deprogram them. I am going to deprogram them like I deprogrammed my 30,000 emails in my basement at my home when I was Secretary of State. And by the way, as I was Secretary of State, I was also running the Clinton Foundation and taking donations from world leaders, but there was no corruption there. While I was Secretary of State, I was in charge of the Clinton Foundation, receiving donations from world leaders, but no conflict of interest, no corruption there. That was perfectly legit. Only in America, only in America can you be the Secretary of State and operate a foundation that takes donations from world leaders and oligarchs and people like that. But there were no, quid pro quo favors involved, right? Oh boy. All right. Let's do a clown world and we will wrap this video up. How am I doing on time here? I'm doing all right. And I'm almost at the main square. Tradition. My first videos in Belgrade, they have to be here. So this is going to be a good clown world. Remember President of Venezuela, Mr. Juan Guaido? Well, there's an arrest warrant out now for Juan Guaido. Yeah, the authorities in Venezuela, they have issued an arrest warrant for the former fake president of Venezuela, who now, from what I understand, is living in the United States. Yeah. Elensky, you better keep an eye out on the trajectory of Juan Guaido from the president of Venezuela, from the fake president of Venezuela to now having an arrest warrant out for him. Yeah, not good. But I think Elensky will be lucky if his future follows along the same lines as Guaido. I mean, he will be very lucky if that's the case. But yeah, Juan Guaido. I have one more story. Not a clown world, but Arestovich, the one-time BFF of Elensky. Now he's like a commentator. He goes on to the channels in Ukraine and he talks about the conflict. He actually came out with a statement agreeing. I guess this is a clown world. This is a horrific clown world. But I can't believe he's saying this. He actually said during an interview on Ukraine TV that he agrees with Ben Wallace. And he says young kids, youth, should be conscripted into the Ukraine military. He said that the average health level of a Ukrainian foot soldier who is well over 45 years old and is close to 50 is not sufficient for the typical battlefield exertions. He said that Russia's dominance in surveillance and artillery means that only small squads operating on foot have a chance to gain territory, and such assault teams, by necessity, need to be universally in good physical shape, he said. Older people also cannot be manipulated into performing the boot camp drills that turn civilians into troops, Arestovich said. He said younger people can be goaded by soaking their ego and challenging them into pissing contests with each other. What is needed are wolves who are 25 to 28, who want to fight and enjoy that, who still have things to prove. What a psychopath. But this guy is, without a doubt, paid opposition, controlled opposition. Paid opposition, controlled opposition. I think there are some forces in the collective West that probably keep Arestovich around because they probably think that he could be a possible successor to Elensky. Possibly. I personally think the guy's a clown, but he was also Elensky's acting buddy. So anyway, that's the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter, X. and go to the Duran shop. 20% off. Use the code TheDuran20. Let's go for a quick walk. Let's sign off. No more news, just a quick tour.